It's a little something a little different for this channel, which deals more with classics and all my varied interests. But, I think good YA writing is good writing, and I think The Hunger Games is a great series. And I had not read this prequel, but my youngest kid, my daughter Willow, who's 12, is a cool kiddo. Where's Mo? You know Willow. Willow just read the original trilogy, which for those of you who don't know is a really wonderful trilogy that'll probably be considered a classic that's read and taught for a long, long time, even though it's written a little bit for a younger audience, I think. Like, what do you call that when it's not written just for a younger audience, but so that it's also accessible for a younger audience? Good writing sometimes, you know. Back in the day, those distinctions used to be less. But, pretty beautiful cover. Interestingly designed by Tim O'Brien. I'm like, that can't be the writer, Tim O'Brien. Pretty sure I looked that up once, and it's not him. But even though I loved the series back in the day when it came out, I think I was a latecomer to him a little bit because I read all three in 1 week when they first crossed my radar. You know, they're pretty well written. I thought the writing in this was good too. She uses commas a little more than I do. Once she said someone anticipated something when I think she should have said they expected it. Anticipate really means looks forward to, and if you're saying that, it wasn't bad. But I had been hesitant to read this when I first heard about it because Snow is just such a villain in the original trilogy. He's the president of Panem, this futuristic remnant of America. Something I was trying to figure out is how far in the future is this? Snow's family was one of the founding families of the capital, you find out here, and this book is about the 10th Hunger Game. And there was a war before that. I feel like there must have been a century or two of sea levels rising and things like that. I get the sense there's no Florida in this world. But since my daughter Willow just finished the trilogy and is about to read this, I thought, well, I should read that too then finally. We happen to have 2 copies kicking around in the family. I bought this one for my son on his birthday back in the day when it first came out. I think his mom read it, but I had not read it yet. But I just read this thing in like not even 3 days of reading. What makes this style and this kind of book so readable? Why does it take me so long to read the Canterbury Tales, but I can read this in 3 days? There's probably an interesting essay to be written about different kinds of prose styles and how they flow and how fast they read, and I found this very addictive. It drew me in. The character Snow was very interesting. This book is really it's really fascinating. She's doing a lot of interesting things here. There's a lot of good prequel groundwork that leads up to the other 3 locations and characters and motifs and things, and it's great. Katniss, you know, the bow and arrow wielding heroine of the trilogy, she's kind of predicted in this in a way, thematically, spiritually, template-wise, with the main female character who is in this. It's written in third person, but it follows very closely Raskolnikov style Snow, Coriolanus Snow when he's a teenager. And you get to see what life in the capital is like, which is really interesting because in the Hunger Games trilogy, you're off in the district. For those of you that don't know, if you live under a rock somewhere and missed all the books and all the movies and the cultural imprint of it all over the last almost couple of decades, Suzanne Collins was inspired to write the first Hunger Games book when she was flipping channels between Iraq War footage and Survivor, the game show, reality show, and started conflating them in her head. Came up with this amazing idea of what if in a future society the vicious capital of a country has these sadistic games where all the different districts of the country have to donate their children and watch them killed off as like a punitive punishment. Keep everybody in line and all that. And over that original Hunger Games trilogy, you see a real arc with all that. Really an excellent YA trilogy, one of the best. I put it up there with The Tripods, with Also really love the Pillage trilogy by Obert Sky. That might skew a little younger in its target audience, but would also make excellent movies. Oh, here's the tripods. But there's a really excellent new character in this, Lucy Gray Baird, who's introduced in this, and she's really colorful and flamboyant and kind of a manic pixie type, but not, because there's a lot of depth there, and she's really interesting. And her character is really well developed in the first part of the book. And she kind of has a fainter presence as it goes on, but you are getting her filtered through Snow's perception of her all the time. That is true. But she's just really commanding, and you want her to live and do well, and there's feelings of dread throughout because you know this is a prequel, and you know that Snow is going to wind up this horrible guy. And he's not great from the beginning. He's like an extreme opportunist. But you can kind of understand where he's at. And I think it's an intelligent book in that it gives you increased understanding and depth of this significant character. But it doesn't really excuse him. You know, it's not a fawning, loving portrait. It does make the case for, like, why would a fearful country be punitive and, you know, care about law and stuff, this fear of chaos. But I think it's one of those books, like a good prequel is so good because it just adds depth and makes you want to go back to the original with new, this totally makes me want to reread the original trilogy, and that was not on my planned list. Will I? Maybe sometime. I'd have to borrow them from my kid. Borrowed this from my son. My daughter Willow has a copy too. I mean, it makes you think, oh, when Katniss appears in the Hunger Games trilogy, she must be such a thorn in his side. She's from the same district. She uses all these motifs. She sings one of the same songs from all this time before. It just adds so much and so well to, I don't know, just the insanity that the main character of the trilogy must have brought to this guy. But in this one, oh, what's up, Squirrel? How's it going? We're talking about this book. Do you have any thoughts? I didn't love the title when it first came out, but having read it, I'm like, yeah, that fits. That works. I was reading this comment online. Somebody was saying the original Hunger Games trilogies go from 3 words to 2 words to 1 word. Then you have this first prequel that has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 words. And then the next prequel after this that just came out, Sunrise on the Reaping, has 4. So wait, so are they planning on a 5th one that's going to take place chronologically between the first and second prequel? That'd be kind of strange. But I think a prequel that would be really interesting would be like 100 years before this. You know, like give us the real deep. That's kind of interesting, especially if you keep the reading order of reading the original trilogy, then reading this, then reading Sunrise on the Reaping, which I have not read yet. And it's about Haymitch, the drunken mentor from the trilogy, played by Woody Harrelson in the movies. But in this one, all of the tributes in the 10th Hunger Games, which is a much more rinky-dink affair. I was reminded of the movie Cube Zero, which is a prequel to the Cube movies, the Canadian independent horror films, and how everything is kind of steampunk and retro, and that's a clever trilogy. And that movie does much more that's interesting besides just that. Like it has people involved in the making of the Cube, some of the characters, some of the grunts that work there. But I also thought about the movie Cabin in the Woods, because you have people watching the games on screens the whole time and planning it, you know, from one of the perspectives of one of the game designers. But so all the kids in the arena are paired with mentors. And Snow, who is a kid from one of the formerly very wealthy but now kind of struggling families in the capital, his parents have both died, lives with his grandmother and the grandmam, and his cousin Tigress, who becomes a character in the trilogy later in a different way. And this adds a lot to her backstory. Yeah, I knew you liked this book, Squirrel. I knew you had a fondness for it. Put that paw in there. Don't be ashamed. But Snow, the teenage Snow, he's in school at this time, and he becomes a mentor which is kind of an honor. This does make the Capitol sound like there's like 30 people in it sometimes, but I know there's more. I have not seen the movie of this, but I probably will. Maybe I'll watch it with my daughter when she watches them all after she reads them, if she does that. Her mom told her she can only watch the movies if she's read the books first. I'm cool with that. So he gets paired up with Lucy, this like really colorful, eye-catching, interesting, magnetic personality who sings beautifully. Oh, Squirrel. Glad you liked the book, and thanks for coming to talk about it with me. Squirrel is the real star of this channel, and the other kitties. You're absorbing it through your paws. That's a good way to read. Kind of seems like she is. No, I cut a dreadlock out of her hair today. She was not loving that. I had to get it, kitty. You never get that part. So Snow has to help Lucy, and he wants to. He wants her to win, first for her own sake, then because it kind of falls for her as much as he can with his limited emotional spectrum, and then really because he gets a potential full scholarship to the next year of school, and his family's having financial difficulties. There's some good, like, banal but real-world worries woven throughout it. Like, they're worried they're going to lose their house, their apartment, because of new taxes. It seemed to be targeting his family. And he's not a character without redemption or without hope, and that adds a lot to the tragedy of this book, that he really seems like, oh, maybe he could be good. Maybe he's secretly good. Maybe he's kind of good. But he's so wishy-washy on it all. And when you have actual characters that are actually good alongside of him, Lucy's a little slippery. You don't quite know what she's all about. She's kind of like a bard from the woods, speaks poetically and with perhaps double meaning at times. But there's another character named Saginus. He's also really wonderful. He like stands up for what's right, and his family has moved to the capital through their dad's munitions company money. But he's a district kid from District 2, and which I think is New Hampshire. I was trying to figure this out all the time. I'm going to watch some videos on this. Like, I always thought the capital had to be DC, right? But poking around the internet, everyone's like, it's Salt Lake City. Capital Salt Lake City. It's surrounded by mountains. It's got tunnels underneath it. It's inland significantly, and the coasts have been totally eroded away and eaten away. I saw a video, The Mormon Implications of Coriolanus Snow. I got to watch that one, because that's my background. Not in it anymore, but it's what I grew up in. And that's so interesting. But yeah, there's only so many districts left, and District 12, where some of the action takes place, that seems to be like West Virginia, but I was thinking like North Carolina, Georgia, Virginia. But that's why I think some time has passed. I feel like a couple 100 years have passed or something. I really hope so. I kind of hate in sci-fi and dystopian things when they give you really short timelines. I'm like, come on, allow possibility, Like that Philip K. Dick book I just read, Flow My Tears, the Policeman Said, written in 1974, set in 1988. Everyone has flying cars. There's been a second Civil War. Nothing is the same. There are drugs that can do impossible things. I'm like, it's just too short of a time. Then again, I don't know. Maybe we're 5 years from AI completely taking over and eliminating all of us, and change happens fast sometimes. Some sort of cultural punctuated equilibrium, which is the idea in evolution that sometimes things speed up and evolve a little faster at this or that time. But this is a long book. It's about 500 pages. I bet if my daughter reads this will be the longest book she's ever read. And cool, good for her. I was really impressed, though, when I was over at my kid's house yesterday, talking with my daughter Sonora, and I was turning the lights off and checking on everything, and making sure the animals were okay and everything over there. And my kid's mom was away for the afternoon. And my daughter Willow has a bookcase, and there's books all over her room. And I'm like, for the kid I've worried the most about reading, you really have a lot of good stuff. And I'm glad to see your bookcase with shelves full of things that you like. There's holes on there. There's Wings of Fire. There's these books. There's the Findus books and Petson, Elephant and Piggy books. There was all kinds of. I mean, it was a bookcase full. I'm like, you know what? I can't say that for all my kids in their rooms. 3 out of 4. That's pretty good. This cover's kind of hypnotic. It draws me in. You know, it really is the thumbnail era of book covers, but still, I feel like the Hunger Games covers have class. They look cool. Good job, Tim O'Brien. Better than your average Paul Bacon cover or whatever. Oh, he's fine. But he really did pave the way for these simplistic covers. Anyway, so this book is in 3 parts. You have the lead up to this 10th Hunger Games, and you meet the characters. You have the Hunger Games itself, and you have a pretty big final third in District 12. But I would just say, if you like the original trilogy, don't sleep on this one. Read the prequels too. Suzanne Collins is a good writer. We're in good hands. I hope she does another prequel one, so there's like a prequel trilogy. It'll be the best prequel trilogy ever. And I'm glad this exists, and it adds to the series in a good way. I hear the movie makes some changes that make him more sympathetic, and that's not great. But what you gonna do? There's Hollywood. Good songs, good characters, good set pieces. And once again, here's how you end chapters that make people want to turn to the next one. She has long chapters too, and often long paragraphs within the chapters, and some of the pages, or you might see 2 or 3 indentings. That's it. Maybe more than that, but it's substantial, and I really enjoyed it, and I'm glad that this is a good series. And it's always so fun as a parent when you can share a reading experience with your kids. Like, that's a really wonderful form of bonding. Because it's not just like a movie or a TV show or something where you have this finished, fixed thing that's there in front of you and you're just responding to what it is. It's like you had this subjective, involved experience with it. And when you talk about it with your kids, it's hard not to see them, you know, in their reading experience when they talk about it. It's really great. And I bet Willow will be Katniss for Halloween or something this year. I know she talked about it, but she also has a cousin that's thinking of being Katniss. But, you know, good for Suzanne Collins. Before this series, she was most famous for this Gregor the Overlander series, which we read a couple of those with my kids as bedtime books, but they're for younger audiences than these, and a little more fanciful and strange. Like a kid goes through, you know, a passage in his laundry room in his apartment complex to an underground world and stuff. Totally different thing. Crazy. But, you know, all these books preach revolution, preach thoughtfulness and engagedness, and it's interesting. I've had people from across the political spectrum recommend and talk about positively the Hunger Games. So it must do that good literary thing of being universal enough that people can connect to it from whatever. There was a right-wing security guard cop at my last job who was like, those Hunger Game movies, they're important. They teach people important things. I'm like, yes, but I think if we keep talking, we're going to stop agreeing. I can't decide if it would be most interesting for her to do a third prequel that took place between the next one, Sunrise on the Reaping, and the original Hunger Games, because that would be cool. Bring everybody up. Or to just do one that was flashing way back, because then there'd be an interesting sort of 3-2-1 rhythm in you know, the times looked at. That would be cool too. Maybe she could finish this prequel trilogy up with one between Sunrise on the Reaping and the Hunger Games, and she could do another prequel trilogy going way farther back. I think that'd be awesome. 9 books in a cool world. Or maybe she'll do a trilogy after the events of the Hunger Games sometime. I'm a big fan of what David Lynch calls the continuing story. And when I heard that term, I was like, I love it. Because I'm always saying in my own writing that a great guiding force for me has always been the idea of pushing past natural stopping points. That, like, you know, when you go on past where you thought you had all there was to say, then you're sometimes digging from deeper places. And I say, you've created an amazing world. and people love it, and we want to see more of it and see it expanded and see it explored and so on. Like, keep it up. Give us another prequel trilogy, either between Sunrise on the Reaping and the original Hunger Games, or give us a way flashback one, or give us I don't know, give. I'm grateful for all that we do have from her in this very cool series. Really interesting. And it's so nice when people add to a series or write prequels or sequels or something like that, and it doesn't ruin or take away from what there was already there. And it actually adds to it and adds depth. And I really enjoyed this. That was an addictive reading experience. Maybe I'm getting a reading groove back. I've been reading a bit lately. Maybe that sounds weird since I have a booktube channel, but life gets in the way of everything. I'm super broke and underemployed right now, and so it's like life calls me away from such things as reading. My kid's grandfather on their mom's side, he used to get in trouble for reading when he was a kid. Living in Bisbee, Arizona, his mom thought reading was a sign of idleness. Now it's like, I wish people would read. Pretty book inside the cover too.